another heavy hitter that I learned last year is, and I'm gonna make this general. This is general, okay? This is a general statement. This is a general, okay, philosophy, right? I'm talking about the average man. You know, don't take this personal. They're like, oh no, it depends. No, honestly, looking back at my life and looking back at what's around and looking at what's around me and knowing everything that I know, this is the case for the average guy. All right, so let's say the average guy. All right, this is one of the things I've learned. I learned that the average guy settles with the girl that they'll get away with stuff. The one that lets them, you know, kind of just, not just get away with doing stuff, but then get away with them continuing to be them where they're at. Meaning complacent, comfortable with wherever they're at. And I'm not going to get into, oh, we're supposed to love people for who they are. Of course we are, but that's not my point here. So just stay away from that right now. Okay? But then he'll go and have an affair with a girl that he probably has a little more respect for, because that girl is the type of girl that wouldn't let him get away with what he gets away with, which has to do with him as a man too, with being complacent in where he's at. That girl won't also not let him get away with him being stuck there. He will be forced to evolve. He'll be forced to grow. He'll be forced to mature. He'll be forced to challenge himself to achieve his optimal potential. And no one likes to change. And men, we're all creatures of habits. Humans are creatures of habits, but men especially. You know, because so the girl he has an affair with is the one who's going to compel him to feel like he has to step up his game. So he's having an affair with her because he gets to taste her. He gets to experience her. He gets to be with her, but not have to commit 100%. He gets to have her at a distance. And when he doesn't have to commit to the girl, he doesn't have to commit to himself and his change. Bow. I've also learned that, you know, when a man, this is for the women mostly, maybe it'll help a man realize self-realize too, but a girl or a woman, whatever, knows a man's sentiments are sincere about her. Doesn't have to be in a relationship, could be in any capacity, however that man is in your life. This is just speaking generically. A man's sentiments are sincere of the woman when he cares about the responsibility he has in her life. Thirdly, men subconsciously seek purpose in absolutely everything. I learned this earlier in the year last year. I have a personal mission of mine from a child where I was out to figure out men, not in a way where as a woman I'm trying to figure out men, in a way from the heart of a child. I have a connection to my father that really has driven me to understand what makes a man tick. And just one of the things I've learned, a big thing though, from earlier last year, is that men pursue purpose in absolutely everything, whether they realize it or not. And most of the time, y'all don't. But men who, you know, evolve and really, really open up their eyes and really, really, you know, get into nitty gritty of trying to evolve as a man themselves, they eventually will come to know or find out or learn in some way or another that subconsciously or in their innate nature is in a constant pursuit of purpose in everything, in their work, in their home, in their relationship, with their boys, with themselves, everything. They're in a constant pursuit of purpose. Women, not so much. It's at least not in their innate instinct. It's not in our innate instinct to pursue purpose. Men are doing it in a way where they don't even realize they're doing it. Oh, it's just something I learned. Another thing I learned. I was had a moment where I was kind of like spinning and trying to figure out, why are people so fixated on celebrities? I'm not fixated with celebrities. I might have celebrities I admire or whatever, or I'll talk about something if it's a hot topic, but I never understood the idolization of celebrities. What I learned last year is that people really gravitate and latch onto the image of a celebrity, their brand, you know, that idolize them, because they are people who are doing what that person wants to do, which is to existentialize the ego. It's all about the ego when it comes to someone latching onto the idolization of a celebrity. They're living, it's almost kind of, you can kind of say like it's almost vicariously living through them. They're fixated on anybody. It's our human nature to be fixated and to be entranced and fascinated by someone who is just them and lives out their persona and existentializes who they are. It's all has to do with the ego, but I'm not gonna get too deep into it. One of the biggest things I learned last year is how to take advantage of the exact acute prime time of vulnerability in conversations, situations, and whenever dealing with people. And I learned, as I was learning that, I learned that, okay, so this is how God is able to make something transformative happen between people. This is why it's so important that we allow God to do things at the exact time, at the exact place, because he knows exactly when that person's ready. And he knows when that window of vulnerability is his most prime, is his softest, is his most pliable. He knows that. He knows all these inner workings. I'm learning it for me on a very surfacey level. This is why God is the guy who gets the job done. But learning that, I learned how God works. And I asked that this year. I asked to learn. I said, God, teach me how you work. I want to know how you work, what makes you tick, and how do you move? Like what, you know? Another thing I learned is that everything is given and taken in equal measure. Something I've always known, not always, but something I've known in my later years is that everything has a polarity and its duality. Everything on this earth has its polar and has its dual, which is one and the same. And I'm not going to break it down. But with that, I didn't understand that I need to take that principle and apply it to literally everything. You know, we have karma, right? Karma isn't... There is a divine justice system, yes. But the science of it, I guess, is where this principle applies. Everything is given and taken in equal measure. You know, there's that verse in the Bible that says, you know, you reap what you sow. That's what everything. So, you know, don't know how to explain it. For example, we can use people's personalities, or, you know, just as, like, for example, for me, I'm just as happy and cheery and bubbly I am and optimistic. On the opposite end of that is just as crazy and depressed or negative, or, you know, brooding. That's a better word. Brooding and negative and heavy my energy could be. And unless you change one end, the other end won't change. So, like, I can't tell someone, oh, lighten up, because that end can't change unless that other end of that changes. Does that make sense? I know I'm not making any sense right now. It's hard to explain, but basically, like, everything has its balance, and the one can't do without the other. Just like our atoms, you know, our ions, our negatives and our positives, and that's true in our personalities as well. Everything is taken in equal measure, which is why when you do something bad to someone, it comes back to you just as bad, you know, sometimes tenfold. But that's divine assistance. That's God, and that's God's intervention, though. Moving on, because I don't know how to explain that too much. It's just something I really realized. When you expose the puppet master, it's gone from your sight. Meaning, so understand this. Understand that the more you have knowledge of something, or the more you understand something, the less that person or thing has influence or effect or power over you. Thus is the same with spiritual struggles, spiritual bondages that we have. You know, the moment you look at something for what it is and see the truth of it, the devil can't use it anymore. I also don't know how else more to explain that, but I just learned that in a different way. I learned that with my spiritual struggles, with partying and going out. It's a stronghold. You know, these demons are real, honey, and they're out here to get your soul. And the only way to stop them is to face them dead in the face and take the power back. Something that blew my mind that I learned last year is that every time we make a decision, so the universe is constantly expanding, and scientists don't know why. Let me tell you why. Because we are constantly populating. Meaning me, there's another version of Fee out there. There's another version of you out there. And every time you make a decision, another you populates in a different universe, an alternate universe, and it lives out what would have happened, or what would you have done, or whatever would have happened had you taken a different decision. And it just keeps populating and popping and popping. And why does it happen? Because we are these ginormous, cosmic, celestial beings. And we're in this body as these huge, energetic beings. We are demigods. The next after God is us. You can't put God in a box. You can't put us in the box either. So God has to constantly, we're constantly repopulating ourselves. And God makes it so that the universe is so vast and big that we can't meet our other self living in another alternate universe. Because if we did, we will cancel ourselves out. When I was a little kid, and this is where this realization came from. It's compounded by things that I know and things I had experienced, okay? But it triggered, the composition is triggered when I was reflecting on this fear I had when I was a little girl. I had a fear, and it almost seemed like an irrational fear. But something about it made me know that it wasn't totally irrational. I would think up to myself, you know, God is so powerful. If he wanted to erase me from the world, he could. He could just go like this. Oh, Fee, I don't want you here no more. Out. And I'm never exist anymore. I lose my life. But I also knew that not to be true. But that fear was because we can be canceled out. God won't do that to us. And I know God won't do this to us, which is why I never let it run wild, that fear. God will never do that to us. We're in the palm of his hand. But we could be canceled out. And that is why. Another thing that I learned last year, going through a little program that I did at my church, I've been living my entire life, even from a little kid, my entire life in shame. And I'm not going to go into it. I don't have to. There's no reason to, and there's no purpose to it. But I learned that I lived my whole life in shame. You can even be a confident, happy person and still live in shame. And then when I realized that, I also was reminded that the very first thing that Adam and Eve experienced when they went against God was shame. The first thing. It's the first sin, to experience shame. Another thing I learned, kind of building off of everything has equal measure. Every polarity, every duality is an equal measure with everything. I've also learned that we as people here on the earth, not spiritually, this is just on the earth, carnally, people's anatomy. Well, we see our anatomy changes. We go to different climates and it changes, it evolutionizes, But I've learned though that it is deeper than just your body adjusting to its environment. Your body actually becomes like the foliage of that ecosystem. I learned that living out here in the desert and living out in Italy. And I noticed that we don't just acclimate. we actually take in or absorb and reflect the foliage of that ecosystem. It's deep. It's deep. Another one that I learned last year, although kind of sad, and I've been reflecting on death a lot, not in a dark way, not in a suicidal way or anything crazy, just generally since 2020, you know, start off 2020 with a lot of like Kobe Bryant, that death rocked the world, and just a bunch of people, you know, and a lot of people have been going through death, the loss of someone. And then I was reflecting on some people and some situations that I've experienced and that other people have experienced, and I've learned last year that although when we lose someone, it's sad. When we lose someone close to us, it's sad. You know, we never know why God takes people away and why it's their time to go. We never know why, and we're not meant to know why, and there's going to be 100 reasons why. And it's okay. I think I definitely learned at least one of those reasons. One of those reasons is because that person being here would not be as beneficial to you and to others as they could be on the other side. There's some things you can't do here in this carbon matter. And for whoever you are, and whatever your makeup is, and whatever your purpose is, it's not just meant to be served here, it's also meant to be served on the other side too. One of the things that I'm just proud of myself last year is that no matter, you know, when growing up for me, a lot of times when someone really close to me isn't appreciative of me or takes me for granted or is not reciprocated, whatever, of course I would get my feelings hurt, but I would move on and I wouldn't regret it. But I'm finally in a place, and last year's testimony to that, where no matter what that situation is, it doesn't affect me. You know, do I see you and see where you're at and we don't have the same, you know, regard for each other? Sure. But it doesn't affect me anymore. I made great progress with that. It doesn't affect me in a way where I'm like super sad about it. Like, cause I have to, you know, I'm a genuine person. So that was always something I struggled with, and not being okay after something like that happens, where you have to score with someone that you did so much for, you care for, and that love wasn't reciprocated. So I'm okay with that. And I've always have been like one of those people. I've always been a person who I don't believe in, like, you know, maybe 10 years ago, if you would ask me, oh, you know, I would have been one of those girls who would have said, oh, I'm not going to build up a man just so he can go be a good man to another woman. At this point, I've learned enough and know enough and I'm mature enough to know, you know what, who cares? I'm glad. Like my son's father right now, he's made tremendous progress. He's a total different person than when I first met him in all the best ways. I'm not mad at that if he's with somebody else. That's a good thing. He knows how to be a better person and a better husband and a better, you know, guy and a better person, you know, all around, just period, to someone, to being with someone else and just being out here in the world. And he knows better for himself to go after and with things with a different perspective and have more hope and he knows, why would I be selfish to say, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not building up a man for somebody else. That is so selfish. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have experiences and be in relationships with people to build each other up and to learn and to grow and to evolve. And if you did that for someone, and that's an accomplishment. To me, that's a spiritual accomplishment. It's one of the biggest. It's what we're here for. It's what people need people for. And if it ends up being someone you're in a relationship with, okay, I understand it's not a fun situation, but don't be fucking selfish. At the end of the day, none of this is about you. It's about the bigger picture. And that one of the things about the bigger picture is that we're here to build each other up. I've known this. I know that we have our own realms, but I really was able to see this past year the traffic of those realms, the people and the things that come in our paths in our realms. And it's not the same for everyone. You say, oh yeah, we all live different lives. Of course it's not gonna be the same. No, there are literal classes and deities and things that will be absolutely hidden from you. They don't exist. They'll be right next to you. But if you're not in that realm, it's gonna be hidden. It's almost like the veil is there. There's a veil between each realm. It's almost what it's like. So that's it. That's a good part of the meat of what I've learned from my year last year. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's what I learned last year, and I'm excited for my new year of 20-something years old.